Did you give them my details?
Because you've given me your details.
Right, that's against the law. It's a breach of my personal data. You should not have done that. You have not. You should not have done that.
In this episode, Brett shows us another wild coin test, and things go wrong super fast. He stops to buy gas at a Sainsbury's station and tries to pay with real, pure silver Royal Mint coins, but the workers refuse them, call the police, and even start throwing his money around. When a police officer shows up, she clearly doesn't know what she's doing, gets the law totally wrong, and messes up Brett's rights so badly that he has to call his lawyer. She handles it so badly that later on, even her own inspector says she needs to be trained all over again.
You've handed over the coins as tender.
Yeah.
Obviously, it is legal tender, you are correct.
Yeah.
But as Sainsbury's, we aren't obliged to take that because we aren't able to bank that here. So unfortunately, we will have to ask for some other means of payment to purchase that fuel.
What do you think legal tender actually means?
Pardon?
What do you think legal tender means?
I'm not into a debate about that. We're not accepting that as a tender here. It's a private company.
So you accept it as legal tender?
Yeah, but we can't bank that here. We don't have the means to bank it, so we don't accept it.
That's not my problem if you can't bank it, is it?
Well, yeah, but we don't accept it.
Well, you already have.
No, we haven't. You just put it down.
No, I gave it to the lady and she put it in her hand.
So, have you got any other means of payment?
That is my means of payment.
So, have you not got any other means?
But that is my means of payment.
Well, and we can't accept that means.
Brett points out something really important when the worker actually takes the coins in her hand. The second she touched them, the debt was paid. The payment was finished. Yes, stores can say, no Royal Mint coins, if they make that rule before anything is bought. But that didn't happen here. The fuel was already in the car. The product was already used, which means a debt was created. Once there is a debt, legal tender money must be accepted. You can't hold real, lawful payment in your hand and then pretend it doesn't count just because it's annoying to deal with. This is exactly where Sainsbury's and the police officer got it wrong. They mixed up what was easy for them with what was actually legal.
Have you got another means of payment, or do we just need to process it as a civil recovery issue?
Well, I've paid.
Well, you haven't. We haven't accepted it.
You don't need to. Well, you have accepted it.
We haven't.
Well, I haven't got the money, have I? You've got the money.
Well, we can give it back to you.
Well, I don't want it back. Are you a police officer?
Yes.
Right, can you identify yourself, please? What number are you?
1866, Bridgewater Police Station.
Mrs. Bradshaw, Miss Bradshaw.
That's correct. Miss.
Hi, Miss.
Hi.
Hi.
So they've asked for another form of payment because
Yeah.
they can't accept this form. Have you got another form of payment on you?
That is my payment.
Right, okay, but that's not tender that they can accept.
Yes, it is.
They're asking for another form of
Yes, it
payment.
is. Let me explain something to you. So when you was training to be a police officer at the beginning, yeah, you swore an oath, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember what the first sentence of the oath was? It was to serve the Queen faithfully.
Correct.
Right. Now those coins are legal tender by royal proclamation of the Queen herself.
Okay.
Right. She's authorised within the legislation for the Royal Mint to create those coins, and when she proclaimed them to be legal tender, she said that they are legal tender for payment throughout the United Kingdom.
When the officer arrives, she just repeats what the Sainsbury's staff told her, like their store rules are somehow stronger than the real law. Brett shuts down her silly talk by reminding her about the oath she took when she became a police officer to serve the crown honestly. And that's the key point. These coins were not just random pieces of metal. They were made legal tender by a royal order under the Coinage Act 1971 Section 2. It is the Crown, through the Royal Mint, that decides what counts as legal tender in the UK. Brett was not sharing his opinion. He was quoting the real authority she promised to follow. By linking her oath to that royal order, Brett showed how silly her position really was.
They've allowed me to take goods, and then pay after the event. Yeah. When the fuel goes into my vehicle, it becomes my fuel, but then it becomes a debt. Okay, now, the whole point of legal tender is that you can use it to pay a debt. As the Queen said, it's for payment throughout the United Kingdom. Okay. So they don't have to accept it, and if they was to give it back to me, it would negate the debt. Mm-hmm. Okay, it's not a police matter, it's a civil dispute. So really, you know, I mean, really, you should be telling them that it's a civil dispute.
I've just spoken to them and said about the document whereby you can come back and pay within 24 hours. They're saying that they don't want to accept the tender that you've given them. Is there an alternative method?
I'm not going to pay in any other way. I've already paid. Okay, and regarding that document, it's called a no means to pay document, isn't it? Right, I'm not filling out a no means to pay document when I have got the means to pay and I've paid. It's almost like an acceptance that I haven't got the means to pay when I had.
What the officer tried to force on Brett here was a no means to pay form. This is a paper fuel stations use when someone truly has no way to pay. For example, if you forgot your wallet, your card didn't work, or you have nothing with you, you fill it out, admit you owe the money, and promise to come back later and pay the debt. It is meant for people who honestly cannot pay at that moment. But here's the problem: Brett did have a way to pay. He had legal tender money right in his hand, backed by the Royal Mint. That alone means the situation does not fit under no means to pay. By trying to make him sign the form, the officer and Sainsbury's were basically trying to rewrite what really happened, acting like proper payment never existed just because they didn't want to accept it.
Can I take your name, please?
No. Oh, yes you will, because I'm driving.
Sorry?
Yes you can, because I'm driving. Sorry. There you go. Although technically parked up on private land. I'll be going soon as I finish dealing with it.
Is that the money?
No, I don't want that. If you give it back, then it goes to debt. Did you see that, officer? Officer?
Yes,
I've paid and she's thrown the money back in.
They've asked for another form of
No,
payment.
she's thrown the money back in.
Okay.
Do you understand? Can you explain to them that that negates the debt? You can't pay someone and then they just throw the money back at you.
Do the paperwork.
Do you want to remind them of that?
There, so that's the details of the transactions there, okay?
Ma'am, can you show it to me? I paid it though.
Yeah, but it's unacceptable tender.
Officer, did you witness them give me the coins back, didn't you? And when I have paid, yeah?
I've witnessed them give you the coins back. I've also witnessed them say that it's unacceptable tender. They're not willing to accept it. Therefore, they've asked for another form of payment. You haven't provided it, so that's hence why they're giving you the form.
Well, I don't want that.
When the officer asks Brett for his name while he is sitting in his car, he has to give it by law. And here is why. The Road Traffic Act 1988 says any driver of a vehicle on a road or in a public place must give their name and address when a uniformed police officer asks. This rule applies no matter why the officer stopped them. So at that moment, because Brett was in the driver's seat, he had no choice but to follow the rule. But what happens next makes everything feel even more strange. Just a minute later, a Sainsbury's worker suddenly comes back with a no means to pay form already filled out with Brett's details. Remember, Brett never signed that form or agreed to it, and he had already clearly said he was paying with legal tender. So the big question is, how did they even get his name in the first place?
Can you give these coins back to her, or can you keep them as evidence?
I'm not giving the coins back.
Well, you do realise it negates the debt anyway.
They haven't accepted
Well, I don't want that either, and that's nothing to do with me. I would like a receipt though, please.
You've been
I
served
can't
with
give you
it.
receipts. The transactions are outstanding, I'm afraid.
Do they have to give me a receipt for VAT purposes?
You haven't paid for
I
it
have
because they
paid.
havened accepted the tender.
I have paid. They had it in their hand. They threw it back in the car.
Okay, but they
You
haven't
witnessed they
accepted,
threw it
they
back
haven't
in.
accepted the tender, so therefore there isn't a
So
payment.
it's for, as I said to you earlier, the Queen said that
I
these.
understand what you're saying,
Yeah.
and you've obviously done your research.
Yeah.
What they're saying is it's not a acceptable form of tender. They're not accepting it, therefore the debt hasn't been paid.
But you're an
hence
officer of the
why-
law, aren't you? You're a sergeant or just a PC?
PC. Hence
Yeah.
why they've given you this, because they want you to pay in another acceptable form of tender.
So what do you think? If they said that they didn't want to accept a £50 note and threw the £50 notes back in, yeah, and then gave me that, would you think that's reasonable?
Well, you
Or £20
have to
notes.
offer another form of payment.
Brett turns the whole argument upside down with a simple example. If someone hands over a £50 note and the store throws it back, then tries to make them fill out a no means to pay form, would anyone think that is fair? The logic is exactly the same here. Once real legal tender is offered, the debt is paid. Refusing it is not Brett's mistake, it is theirs. But the officer still doesn't understand. Instead of seeing the real issue, she keeps repeating the same useless line that Brett should pay in some other way. But that is not the law. That is just doing whatever the store wants. By choosing what was easy instead of what was legal, she turned a paid debt into a police problem. And that is the moment her whole argument fell apart.
So say I had 50s and £20 notes, okay, and I went in there to pay them, and they said, oh, sorry, we don't accept those, right? Yeah, but even though this is theoretical, yeah, we don't accept those, and I say, well, I've paid, and I've left the money on the counter, and they came in from back in the car, would you still be saying that it's up to me to pay in some other way?
But they just said that's an acceptable form of tender.
Yeah, but it's not down to them as to whether it's acceptable or not. It's down to the state.
They don't deem that acceptable.
It's down to the state. It's not for them to
right.
choose.
Well, they've served you with this. They haven't accepted payment.
I don't want that. That's nothing to do with me.
Right, okay. Well, you've seen it. She's showing you it.
Yep.
Okay?
I don't know what it is. I don't even know what it is. What is it? I haven't signed any. What is it? No means to pay form or something like that? How did they get my details? Did you give them my details?
Because you've given me your details.
Right, that's against the law. It's a breach of my personal data. You should not have done that.
Paid.
You have not. You should not have done that.
You haven't paid.
You know that. You should not have done that.
You haven't paid.
As the officer holds up the no means to pay form, Brett immediately notices something shocking. His name is already written on it. Right away, he asks her, "How did they get my details?" Shockingly, she admits she gave his information to the store, saying it was fine because he already told it to her. That is a huge break of GDPR and data protection laws. The officer got Brett's personal details under the Road Traffic Act, and those powers are only meant for road traffic situations. Giving that information to a private supermarket during what is really a civil issue is completely illegal. Police officers are supposed to protect personal data, not hand it out to businesses whenever they feel like it. But instead of fixing this clear breach, the officer just repeats the same old line, "You haven't paid." This is a total failure of her duty. She twisted police powers to help a supermarket while crushing Brett's rights and breaking GDPR. It is not just unprofessional, it is seriously shocking behavior. In his update, Brett explains how the complaint ended, and it is honestly hard to believe. The police replied saying the officer did nothing wrong, basically defending actions that let a private company refuse legal tender, throw it back into a customer's car, and misuse police powers to get personal details using the Road Traffic Act. That is not doing nothing wrong. That is confusing public authority with what is easiest for a company. It shows how one officer's lack of knowledge can be supported by a whole system that cares more about protecting itself than following the law. Brett explains it perfectly when he talks about how this turned into a fraudulent situation. By getting his details through the police, Sainsbury's was able to fill out a no means to pay form without him, basically creating a contract he never agreed to. That is the real scandal. The officer was not just confused. She helped the company use police powers to hide its own mistake. In another reply, Brett says that even though his lawyer confirmed he had a case, it was not worth taking to court. But the aftermath still mattered. Her own inspector admitted she would be retrained, which says everything. It is a quiet way of admitting fault hidden behind official words. When an officer needs retraining after one interaction, it shows the citizen understood the law better than the person enforcing it. What is really crazy about this whole story is how fast a simple payment turned into a public lesson on bad policing. Brett was not rude, hiding anything, or breaking any law. He was simply using a right every citizen has, the right to settle a debt using official legal tender. But what happened next showed how unprepared some officers are when someone actually knows their rights. From the very start, the Sainsbury's staff had no power to refuse legal tender for a debt that already existed. Things exploded because a police officer, someone who should have known the law, chose to side with a business instead of the rules. Instead of calming the situation, she backed their misunderstanding, repeating store policy like it was stronger than national law. It is a perfect example of how modern policing often chooses convenience over fairness. Brett, on the other hand, stayed calm and sharp. Every time the officer or staff tried to twist the story, he shut it down with simple facts. His £50 note example showed how silly their logic was, proving that refusing payment after service is not a choice. It is a violation. By the end, the officer had no legal ground left, and her attempt to fix things only made it worse when she shared his personal data using the Road Traffic Act. That single move alone was enough to start a serious complaint. In the end, Brett walked away having done more than just protect himself. He educated thousands. His calm and smart approach turned what could have been a small civil issue into a full lesson on standing firm when you are being pushed illegally. The message is very clear. Know your rights, stay calm, and never let someone with a badge or a store uniform convince you that the law bends just to make their job easier. That's it for today's video. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.